So in today's video, I wanted to share a little bit of my personal story and what led me to my teaching method and how I fell in love with music, with jazz, and how I became a musician, how I decided to actually become a musician and become a professional in this beautiful but crazy world that it is to become a musician. I'm originally from Peru, from Lima. I had the amazing luxury of having a father that just made me listen to classical music since I was, zero. Since as long as I remember, I completely fell in love with classical music. Since I have memory, I've always loved it because my dad loved it and I heard it all my life. So and that was a luxury because I feel it's really the best music. I mean, it feeds so much. It makes you a very sensitive person, and you it's just very profound, right? To listening to Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, Mozart, Verdi, Beethoven, everything. That's how I grew up. I actually did not listen to any jazz because my dad hated jazz. Funny enough, and but later on I started playing music. I became really interested in performing, and I grabbed a clarinet. I grabbed a few instruments before that, but it wasn't until I grabbed the clarinet at age 12 where I started really building some rapport with music. And I really wanted to play. I started really loving the fact, I wanted to perform music. And I started playing, and it was all classically, I was basically instructed in a classical way, reading it, just learning my scales and learning all of this, basically just reading. And even later on, classical concertos. I joined even the youth symphonic orchestra in Peru. A lot of that started happening. But at some point, when I was like 14, 15 years old, I discovered jazz. And there was a thing back in Peru called Jazz Peru, and I joined it, and I played a clarinet, and I just completely fell in love with the concept of improvisation. And that completely transformed my musical perspective, because until then, I was very classically oriented, so it was all about memorizing etudes and, reading concertos and this and that. But I didn't feel like I was actually creating music on the spot. And I didn't know any composition back then. So to me, it's like, I want to create music. How can I create music? And when I learned about jazz, I remember I think it was on one of my trips, and I found a Duke Ellington CD, and then a Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, and then a Frank Sinatra CD. I listened to them all, just started to fall in love with the sound of the big band, the sound of the soloists grabbing their instrument and spontaneously creating amazing melodies. I was like, wow, I want to do that. And then I went on the jazz big band in Peru, and I started playing, but it was clarinet, and it's like, well, we need a saxophone. And surprisingly enough, it was not super intentional to play the saxophone. It happened because I played clarinet, and then later on they needed a saxophone player. So I thought maybe I should get a soprano sax because it looks similar, but they needed a tenor. So that led me to buy a tenor sax at the age of 16 and started listening to all this new music that my dad never showed me because I had classical ears only. So then started listening to Ben Webster, Lester Young, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Rollins, right? Sonny Stitt, Donny Hodges, all these amazing sax players, Charlie Parker. And then from everything, right? From also going to Frank Sinatra, Ray Charles, listening to some of the more contemporary jazz sounds, even Michael Brecker. And I was like, oh my God, this is what is going on here. Then also Latin jazz by default. And I got instantly, fell in love with the concept of improvisation. I wanted to create music on the spot, create phrases on the spot that sounded so good. I was like, how can they do that? That sounds like magic. So that's really when I found and discovered improvisation that my seriousness for music went to the next level. And that's when I decided I wanted to be a musician, because before I loved music, but I just didn't see my career as a musician. And then I found improvisation. It's like, I want to do this. I want to get the tools. I fell in love with the process of what are they doing? I need to learn that language. I need to learn those tools. And then I want to learn how to speak it because I know I have the, talent. I have the spark. I really want to do it. So I started obsessing with trying to understand everything I was listening to. And that's when my journey with improvisation really started. And that led me to really fall in love with so many other musical styles like Latin jazz, salsa, funk, just at R&B, all of the others, they came later, but it all started with this improvised element. Not just improvising in your instrument, but the fact that you could also sit on the piano and just know the chords and transpose them and play around with them, that is also improvisation, right? The fact that with knowledge, you can grab that knowledge and make it into music right away, it's something that to me was too much magic. I needed to know how to do that rather than sitting down and play a memorized etude or play something that a lot of classical players, it's hard for them to improvise, and some of them don't even know. Like nowadays, a lot of the education, especially on the classical side, improvisation has been detached, and now improvisation is more for jazz. But before, all the great classical composers, they used to improvise. Beethoven was an amazing improviser. Bach as well. In fact, a lot of their compositions are improvised extracts that they played and then they reworked and then they wrote down. But improvisation is just such a big... I started understanding the fact that if you can't improvise, you can't really be a great musician. Like you need to... It's like a speaker. When you talk, you're not speaking memorized sentences, right? You need to be able to sit in your instrument and speak with the knowledge that you get. And that to me became such an important thing that led me to went to Berklee College of Music. I applied and I studied there for 4 years. I learned as much as I could, and I actually majored in jazz composition. I wanted to learn not only improvisation, but the tools. I wanted to learn the tools, composition, arranging, big band, orchestration, conducting, all of that I learned. And then later on, I graduated, I made a lot of great friends. I improved a lot, had a lot of great mentors, and really learned all of these amazing tools. Then I went to Europe for a little bit and started touring, but it wasn't until later on that I came here to LA, 10 years ago now almost, that I started working on all these different styles of music and really started playing everything, like really got in touch with all of the styles of music. And then started teaching a lot. I started teaching workshops and started teaching live, like when I was going to Peru or even here in the US, I would try to teach because it made me a better musician. I was like, oh wait, I've always loved to demystify things. It's like, look, to me, that's how I started. When I learned music, I would listen to music for hours, back then you would listen to the entire record, and I would try to say, what is that chord? I need to know that chord. If it wasn't a piano or if it was a line, what is he playing and why did he play that note, right? I was obsessed with that. Later on, I started understanding these concepts. And then the social media revolution came, right, with Instagram, and I joined. So I started posting my content, posting my videos, posting some of the teaching method that led me to teach online and get students online. Got me to develop my method and my system. I was just sharing what I knew and I was putting it together. And then all of a sudden, all of these people were asking me, hey, how do you do that? Wait, what is that? Do you sell that? What are you doing there? Can you explain it? So I was like, sure, I'll explain it. Started creating all these videos and these etudes, wrote my first ebook. I never forget that. It started improving so much because at the same time I was gigging and working, and then I was developing my own online system of demystifying improvisation, which was my passion since the beginning, demystifying improvisation. Because a lot of people struggle so much, and I see it on my students, there's not a system to really learn improvisation. You learn the tools and then it's like, go ahead and improvise. It's like, well, there are certain things you can do and you can work. It's like when you learn how to speak, you have limited language, but you still work around creating different sentences and improvising. So that led me to, I want to teach this in a systematic way so that you grab the saxophone and you learn one simple scale, you can start improvising. Right? And that became such a beautiful concept to me, which led me to enhance my system, enhance my career. And then COVID came along, so I had to go full online, started teaching even more. And, I also at that time, I created co-created the Afro-Peruvian Jazz Orchestra. And we got the Grammy. That's when all that moment of winning the Latin Grammy for Best Arrangement, all of that came along. It was an amazing experience. And then after all that, I started creating more and more content about improvisation, composition, big band. It's everything I loved and learned, and started really coaching students and really, getting into that educational content that I saw was helping so many people. I got obsessed with it, and now last year I kind of turned things around. Actually, 2 years ago, I started doing this high-level coaching with students and really players that, I started learning so many other things, because ultimately as a musician, it's not really just about the music, it's about the marketing, it's about sales, it's about really creating a legacy, right? And all of those things are really important for me, but it doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how good your content is if nobody knows about you. And that's what I'm trying to change now, even with YouTube. That's why now you're seeing all of these YouTube videos, because I really want to be everywhere. I want to spread out my knowledge, and I want to help people all over the world. And you can help me right now if you're watching this, and you can subscribe to my channel, and that it's a great help. Keep up with my videos, and hopefully they're helping you. As I started really sharing my content, looking at the results, started this coaching, and then started learning about all of these things that have nothing to do with music, you know, from the basic of creating my website to dealing with, you know, tourings and then understanding all this new digital revolution of digital marketing, AI, social media, emails, how to really do a business. Because ultimately, I think all musicians, even if you don't think you are certainly a business. Everything is a business. A marriage is a business. And if you're a musician, you know, I hate sometimes, I stepped away from a lot of the gigging scene here in LA, because a lot of people are very down on that. It's like, oh, I have to no, I'm just a gigging musician. I just do the music and I just take the gigs. Like, well, there's more to it, right? I mean, for me, it's like, I want to really be a business. And that's why I also started the coaching, because it became a much bigger impact. I stopped giving just one lesson. I was like, I want to coach people so that I want to get them results, because when you teach a lesson, you don't get results right away. The student doesn't get the results. He might grab that information and take it with them and never do anything with it. But when you're coaching, you get this accountability. I started loving that concept and really learning about entrepreneurs. And started learning more with, you know, listening to people like Alex Hormozi, Myron Gold, and Tony Robbins, and really understanding how it's all about not just like building a business, building a legacy, and giving so much value that people start recognizing it. And that's in the mission that I am now. So that led me last year, you know, package all my courses in different ways. And this year I decided to join this amazing platform called School. And I started my Improv Mastery Circle, which, you know, started as an online course that I've always had. It used to be called Melodic Mastery, then it transformed to Jazz Improvisation Mastery System, which is my actual step-by-step system that took me, honestly, 8 to 9 years to really come up with that structure and really understand what is the musician's lack. And I became really good at identifying, you know, these gaps in the music teaching world. It's like, you know, nobody teaches us about rhythmic language, about deconstructing simple elements. It's all about learning new things, right? But when you go back to simplicity, you know, I now have students that it's like, hey, can you grab a C major scale and with good rhythmic language actually improvise really beautiful statements? And it's amazing how they start doing that, and it transforms their musical life. It's because you don't need more complexity, you need more musicality. Then you can add complexity alongside musicality always. So I started now my Improv Mastery Circle, which is basically a community, a private community, where, you know, I had initially my course students joining, and then now it's becoming an amazing thing that I didn't really expect that it was going to be like that, because the platform inside School, you can, you know, you get this community aspect where you can host your course, but also you get all these people joining in and posting their progress, and students were so excited about that, because it's not just a course where you look at it once and forget about it. It's like you look at the course, but then you see constant posts and students sharing their progress. And then I stepped in giving weekly challenges and group coaching calls and things like that. So it just became a bigger thing, where it's now almost like a mini coaching hub for students all over the world that want to really boost their improvisation skills. And this is kind of beautiful where I'm at right now with this, because that's what, you know, as you saw in the beginning of this video, that was what made me fall in love with, becoming a musician, was improvisation. So to me, to have now a community called Improv Mastery Circle, and to be able to help people from all over the world, all ages, all levels, really boost their improvisation skills with step-by-step system, it's something I wish I had. I would be the biggest fan of this community when I was 18 years old, because I would have learned so much. That's the reality. I didn't have this kind of thing back then, not even at Berkeley, you know, because at Berkeley you had to wait until the next lesson to even ask anything. Here it's like a daily thing where, you know, you can post your progress, get feedback, and get this community, this mastermind kind of thing, right? So I'm excited to see it grow now. But that's pretty much where I am right now with all my educational resources. I know some of you have been seeing my videos. Usually, you know, at the end, you see me inviting you to join the Mastery Circle. And it's truly the best if you really want to boost your improv skills. I definitely encourage you to check it out. I have a special offer for all my YouTube subscribers in the description where you can join the Improv Mastery Circle and even get direct access to me and really take your playing to the next level. I want to help you do it fast as well, because timing is of the essence here. You don't want to spend, if you spend 10 years practicing and you sound the same, then you got to join, because if you do the work, you're going to start sounding different in a month or 2 months, right? It's really what this system is designed to do, is to transform, grab what you know, enhance the musicality, and really start improving in ways that you might have never done before. But anyway, just wanted to make this quick video, share a little bit of my story and what led me to create this, Improv Mastery Circle, what made me become a musician, how I fell in love with improvisation, how I've been, working on all kinds of things in music, from film, from, playing salsa gigs to funk to jazz clubs and venues, touring musician, session musician, and how all of that experience, is being packed now on this system. And it's a truly amazing thing. And I'm excited to keep sharing my knowledge with you. So keep it up. Thank you so much for watching this. Make sure to subscribe. You can turn on notifications. Every Tuesday I post an educational video, and I'm going to have other kinds of videos like this one on other days. So just let me know in the comments what kind of things you would like to see on my channel. I'll keep them in mind. And it would be nice if you put in the comments, where are you from, and how long have you been playing, and what made you fall in love with music? Why do you play your instrument? I always love to hear from people, why is it that, why do we do this even, right? What was that thing? We all have this moment when something clicks, and it's like, even if you're not a professional musician, right? What made you fall in love and decide to play the saxophone or any instrument you play? Leave it in the comments. And yeah, well, thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video.